Hey everybody, Sean Aslan here. It's May 22nd, Monday. I'm out here at the Port Aransas jetties, Corpus Christi, Texas, but Port Aransas, Texas. Out here at the South Jetty. See the channel here going out. Water looks pretty good. I'm already seeing Sheepshead down here. Got my dive flag set up, getting my gear going. Gonna do a little jetty dive here. It's been a little while since I dived out here. Normally, if you got 2 foot of viz, that's good for out here. Today it's 6 to 8 foot. I can see Sheepshead pretty good ways down there. But water looks phenomenal. Tide's gonna change soon. It's a little darker out there. I'll see when I get underwater how it is out there a little bit further. But looks pretty good. Let's get in the water, do a dive. See y'all soon. All right, guys, into the water here. See a ship headed in. Just came in from offshore, going into the channel. This is pretty good here. It's about 10 feet. Pretty strong inbound current. You see the grass kind of zipping past my face from right to left. It's an inbound current. Before I even get underwater, I'm loading the gun up here. I'm already seeing Sheepshead. I see one from where I'm at. I'm going to load the gun up here. I see him already. I'm not even going to get my head underwater, take my first shot. And again, I'm kind of fighting the current here. See me waving my arm, trying to keep position in the current here. But take a shot at this first Sheepshead and hit him, knocked some scales off of him, but I got kind of a bad angle. He turned as I shot. It hit him, kind of deflected off, and didn't really stick that guy. So reloaded the gun. Gonna head down here. Normally when I'm diving the jetties here, I'm gonna head straight to the bottom of the rocks. Right off the rocks. As soon as you get in the water, it's probably about 10 feet deep. These rocks angle down at a pretty steep angle. These big granite blocks are about 5 tons apiece. I can't remember if it's 3 tons or 5 tons, but big granite blocks here they've got on the jetty. I'm going to head straight out toward the channel, straight down toward the bottom here. A lot of small Sheepshead you're seeing here on the way down. I don't normally stop and start hunting until I'm all the way at the bottom. But I'm going to head all the way down until I run out of granite. The granite will end at a certain point. You don't really see a lot of mono on the rocks here. In this video, you're going to see a lot of fishing line on the rocks. Going to have a lot of entanglement here. I got tangled quite a bit on this dive. But I'm kind of far down the jetty. There's not really a lot of fishermen down on this end of the jetty, so you don't really see a lot of line on the rocks just yet. You do see a lot of gap in the rocks here, a lot of sand. These are kind of some of the older rocks. They've recently put some new granite in. Further down the jetty, kind of a little more seaward. Down on this end of it, it's a little bit older. You see a lot of sand. There's actually granite under that sand. Over the years, the granite blocks have kind of settled down into the bottom. Some of that sand has kind of covered some of them up. But down further inshore, away from the beach, there's quite a few more sand pockets in between this granite. So as I'm kind of getting down here to the bottom, I'm reaching the bottom end now. You see I'm running out of granite. I'm kind of running into this smaller rubble here. This is also granite, but it's just kind of crushed up. The big granite blocks in, you run into the small stuff. That's how you know you've gotten to the end. There aren't going to be any further granite blocks out deeper from here. So I'm going to turn right. I'm heading into the current. The current is inbound. So I'm going to turn right, head into the current. There's a few reasons I do that. It keeps clean water in my face. I'm not getting blown over the top of fish. If I see a flounder or something like that, if I'm headed down current, the current will push me over the top of them and spook them before I even get a chance to shoot at them here. But I'm going down here again. I'm about 35 feet. You see I'm kind of getting a little further away from the granite. The rocks are getting a little bit more sporadic. It's always a good idea to dive with a compass out here. You don't really want to get away from that granite. You get turned around out here really easy. A great day on Viz is 10 foot. This is maybe 8-ish. So it's usually a good idea to have a compass. I'm diving in the channel. I know the jetty is always to my south. So if I get turned around or get lost, if I lose sight of the granite, I'm going to just turn around, point my compass to the south, swim that direction. I'll pretty much run back into the south jetty here. So again, I'm going to keep the big granite rocks on my right. There's a belted sandfish there I'm kind of pointing at. These guys are real common out at the jetties. Little brown fish with a little white spot on the belly. But I'm going to keep the small rubble to my left and the big granite on my right and kind of work this ledge. A lot of the Sheepshead will be here. Gray snapper will be down here quite a bit. The Sheepshead are also up shallower. Honestly, I'd say there's probably more Sheepshead shallower at 15 to 20 feet. Kind of coming up on a sand patch here. I see a flounder. It's hard to spot them in the video, but you can see him there now. Kind of popped him. They love laying in these really soft, silty patches. But there's a lot of clay and shell when you get away from the rocks. They don't like to lay in that shell. They don't like to lay in the clay. They really like this really soft, silty stuff here. But I shot that guy. Not a monster. I'm going to shoot a few flounder in this dive. But they're all going to be roughly 15 to 18 inches. I think that first one I shot there was about 18. You already see fishing line on the rocks. I'm kind of scanning around here. There's a flounder laying right on top of this rock. It's actually pretty common. Notice I stabbed him instead of pulling the trigger. I don't really want to destroy the tip on my gun here. That can get kind of iffy though when you poke them like that. They can spook before you hit them and kind of get away from you sometimes. But I got lucky with that guy. Just kind of poked him. That is not at all uncommon for them to be laying right on top of the rocks like that. So here I'm kind of pointing out a lot of the fishing line. The jetties get fished pretty heavily. Most of these people are throwing their line right into these rocks, breaking off all the time, and that line just stays down there like spider webs all over the place. Bunch of sheepshead. They're all kind of too small. Not very many worth shooting at here. Minimum size on sheepshead is 15. Those guys are all maybe 10 to 12. So I got my 2 flounder strings. See, I'm already my flounder stringers hanging off of me. It's good to be streamlined when you're diving at the jetties out here with all this fishing line. I'm going to get hung up. This whole dive was a little over an hour. I can't tell you how many times I got hung in fishing line. It was a lot. But as you saw there, the flounder kind of dangling off me. See this line here? It's real easy to accidentally swim under some fishing line like this, especially if it's braid. You can kind of come up and get tangled up in it and not realize it was there. But anything dangling off you is going to get tangled in line. Another flounder laying on this rock here. I try to poke at him. I hit him. I miss him. This is why the gun's loaded. I go ahead and take my shot. Luckily, he didn't bolt on me too far. I did have a couple flounder on this dive. I don't think I even put them in this video. That bolted on me before I even got a chance to stick them. But luckily, I had the gun loaded. If I didn't have the gun loaded, there's no way I would have got that guy. He would have took off before I ever got close to him again. But again, it's good to coming back to being streamlined. You want to be really streamlined down here. Anything dangling off you is going to get tangled up in all that line. So anyway, there's a little eel here. These sand eels are real common down on the jetties. A little head poking out of the sand. You get up close, sometimes they'll pull down. They're usually not very scared though. Normally you can go up and actually touch them with your finger, and they won't even pull down in the hole. They'll just kind of sit there and look at you. Again, fishing line. See how the grass kind of wads up on that fishing line? That makes some of it kind of easy to identify. It's not always covered in grass, so it's not always so easy to see. This stuff's absolutely everywhere. Here you got some sea whip. This yellow stuff here is a sea whip. That's pretty common down in the jetties. That stuff's growing all over the place. A lot of sponge, some hard coral, not a whole lot, but those sea whips are pretty common at the jetties here. So on this day, the viz is actually pretty decent. Again, it's 8 to 10 foot. It can vary. It can change pretty quickly with the tide, so on and so forth. This is an inbound tide, so I got clean Gulf water coming in, so I'm doing pretty good here. I'm kind of checking these sand patches, looking for some flounder. There's another one laying right there in between the rocks. You can see him pretty easily. I don't waste any time. I just pull a trigger on him. It can get kind of iffy. If they're not on a rock, a lot of times I'll just pull the trigger. They can spook pretty easy if you're just trying to stab them with the gun. But again, if they're laying on a rock, I'm usually going to try to stab them first before I pull the trigger. Again, that's just to keep from destroying my tip. So coming up, another sand patch here. There's a lesser electric ray laying here. I see his tail sticking out there. That's what I kind of pointed at. Kind of pick up on him. You'll see him here in a second. Pretty cool. See some pretty cool stuff down here sometimes. Again, that's a little small, lesser electric ray. I'm not going to try to get too close or touch this guy. He could shock me a little bit. Ain't going to hurt me, but I would definitely notice. Another flounder laying here. You see those fins, those wavy fins, kind of give them away a lot of times. That guy absolutely went ballistic as soon as I shot him. But luckily, got the shot on him, got him retained. Get him strung up. And I think this is going to make my third one here. Again, already, he's going ballistic. I've let go of the gun to deal with the flounder. My gun is already tangled in some line. This is a major entanglement. There's a crap ton of line here. Several different lines, 6, 7, 8 different lines, kind of wadded up together. Just couldn't. I don't really want to deal with trying to untangle this stuff. Sometimes you can't untangle it. This is getting to be pretty major here. There's some wire, some Walmart leaders somebody's got there. At this point, I'm getting kind of frustrated. I'm just getting more and more tangled. This is a pretty major entanglement here. This is a major risk diving the jetties. If you're going to scuba dive the jetties, I'm telling you right now, you will get tangled in fishing line quite a bit. You better have a knife with you or some kind of heavy-duty scissors, be able to cut your stuff out and stuff. Hope that it's not heavy-duty braid or wire. That stuff you can't really just cut it. You're really going to have to just untangle yourself. But that kind of ended this dive. Got my limited flounder, coming up to the surface, and going to get out and reset here. Hey everybody. Alright, dive 1 is over. It was a pretty good dive. I'm going to put that footage in my video here, but got my limit of flounder. Everything's about 15 plus. A couple of them are about 15, 16. A couple of those guys are closer to 18. But make me a pretty good meal there. Got me a limit of flounder on the first dive. All the sheepshead I saw were a little too small to keep. Too small to shoot at. A little too iffy. So now I'm going to start my second dive here shortly. I want some legal sheepshead. Now I'm living out on flounder. I'm going to go down here to the UTMSI pier. I'm going to swim out to those pylons, descend, and there tend to be kind of bigger sheepshead down here. I could dive along the rocks here. It tends to be kind of shallow, maybe 12, 13 feet right in here. The fish tend to be kind of small in here. But again, out there on the end at the bottom, it's about 35 feet deep. I'll have that footage in this video as well, but I should be able to find some bigger sheepshead over there. Maybe add some sheepshead to the box here. But I'll see you guys underwater shortly. All right, so I've swam out. I'm out at the octagon at the end of this pier for UTMSI. Before I start my descent here, I'm going to prep my gun. I want this thing loaded up. These sheepshead, the bigger sheepshead tend to be on these pylons. A lot better sheepshead down here than there are on the rocks further up the jetty. But I want the gun ready. As you start making the descent here, very often there's going to be sheepshead all over these things. They're eating the oysters and the little crabs, stuff like that, that are living on these vertical pylons. As you start the descent, a lot of times these sheepshead, they're hanging out at around 15, 20 feet. Bottom depth here on the inside, on the shallow side of this pier is about 40. Just on the outside where the pylons are on the deeper side is about 50. They've recently redone this. Harvey knocked this pier down, and they redid it recently. You see a bunch of Atlantic bumper here, big school of Atlantic bumper. They tend to hang out up close, real shallow here. So start my descent. I can see the other pylons. It's good enough for me to kind of free swim around inside this thing. It's just enough. I can just see the shadow from those other pylons. Pretty good sheepshead swims up here. Of course, he doubles back, take a look at me. That's his bad. So he caught a shaft to the face here. This guy went 21 inches. See a couple of other big ones coming up to look at me, wanting to know what's going on. I'm going to kind of stop the descent here, get this guy off my shaft and get him strung up. I don't want to keep descending, as if I keep going down, I'm going to spook all those other big sheepshead that are down there. Once they take off, they're gone. They generally do not come back. So I got him strung up, got my gun reloaded. Now I'm going to continue the descent. I'm probably at about 15 or 20 feet here on my way down. Take another shot of sheepshead, glancing blow on him, missed him. Right, reloaded the gun, continued the descent again. Keep my eyes out. This is okay, it's not super great. It's always harder to see things when you're looking downwards. Things tend to be a little darker. When you're looking upwards and you have the brighter sky up above, it's easier to see fish above you than it is below you when you can silhouette them like that against a brighter sky. But looking down, it's a little dark. I can see the bottom coming up here. There's a little ledge just inshore of the shallow side of this octagon here, where it kind of drops off. Didn't used to do this until they redid the pier. I'm assuming that was part of the process, putting these new pylons in. But there's kind of that ledge on the shallow end, on the shallow side. You can kind of see that ledge there. Looking around, kind of looking up, looking for some sheepshead. Gray snapper, real common down here. I've seen red snapper here, but all I'm really seeing right now is kind of smaller stuff. That guy's kind of iffy, so I don't pull the trigger on him. So kind of swimming around here. Again, the viz is good enough. It's not super great, but here you can see some old structure from the old pier before when Harvey knocked it down. Big Jack Crevalle swimming through right here. But coming back to the coming back to the right, you got some of that structure over there to the right. That's the old pier Harvey knocked down. They removed most of the stuff from the water and built a new pier, drove new pylons in the ground, and so on and so forth. But they think they got all this stuff out of the water, but they did not. There is still some of this old structure sitting down here. That's actually not bad for spearfishing. That's actually good. A lot of the fish like to hang out around this structure. I see snook down here pretty frequently. Honestly, I can't shoot snook. They're game fish in state waters, but they're kind of cool to see underwater. I don't see any on this dive, but I'm actually kind of surprised that I didn't spot a snook kind of hanging out in that tight structure down there. They tend not to be on the pylons, but any of that loose debris kind of down on the bottom, like those pipes I was just looking at, they do tend to be down there. So there's another sheepshead. He looked legal. I took a shot on him. I just completely missed him. That wasn't even a glancing blow. I got no excuse for that one. That was just on me. I just kind of pulled the gun up, pulled the trigger real quick, and I just completely missed that guy. It's spearfishing. That happens. So here's a monstrous black drum. This is probably the biggest black drum I've ever seen. Started telling the video, but that guy's probably every bit of 50 inches. I mean, ridiculously large. Again, I've seen some pretty big black drum, caught some pretty big ones. There's a big one there, what I would consider a big one. He was nothing compared to that first one that just swam off. Again, that guy was probably 50 inches, man. I can't even guesstimate the poundage on that guy. He was probably 30 pounds or more. Big black drum. Here you got a Florida horse conch. These guys are really common. See these guys at the jetties all the time. Big snail. Make pretty good shells for collecting. There's a whole sand dollar. Those are real common down there. I'm not going to try to take it up with me. It'll just break before I get it back to the surface. So I'll just kind of drop it back down on the bottom. Lots of shells, though. So I've got the, you see me silhouetting here. I've got the volume up now. There's a ship coming. Yeah, that's a big ship. Yeah, that's what I just said. I can hear a ship coming. You can't quite hear it yet. You can hear the propeller thump, thump, thump. That's what I'm indicating here. It is coming my way. I'm going to kind of wedge myself between these pylons. You're going to hear the volume get louder and louder here.
Oh yeah, that's a big...
So again, I'm just going to kind of wedge myself between the pylons here. And my plan is just kind of wait the ship out. So you probably hear the ship a little better now. While I'm sitting here, I'm just kind of waiting for the ship to pass by. Take a shot of the gray snapper that comes swimming by me. I totally missed that guy. They tend to be pretty small inshore here. He's probably only 8 inches or so, 7, 8 inches. Pretty small, but it's better than nothing. Well, again, while I'm just sitting here, I'm just waiting for this ship to pass by. I don't want the current to kind of pull me out when the ship goes by. It's really going to affect the current. You'll see that here shortly. But I'm just kind of sitting here waiting it out, just shooting whatever comes by. The fish don't really care about these ships passing by. There's a red snapper. Just saw a red snapper swim past. Of course, my gun's not loaded. They always swim up right after you pull the trigger. This ship's very close now. Make a lot of noise. You really see it start to affect the current here. You're going to see a lot of silt start being pulled. It's going to start pulling water really hard here. I'm going to set my gun down in case I need to hold on to this pylon. Here it goes. You really see the water starting to kick now. The ship is pretty much parallel to me. The ship's maybe only 200-300 yards from me. I can feel that screw turning. I can literally feel it in my chest. It's pretty loud down here. Again, I'm just going to kind of stay behind this pylon, kind of break the current for me, set my gun down so I can hang on to it if I need to. Again, this is all just wasted time. I can't do much hunting. The fish don't really care about the ship, but it's hard to be effective. The water's getting dirtier by the second here. It's actually, the sound is so loud it actually hurts my ears. But the ship kind of passes along now. Gets past me. He's beyond me now. But at this point now, I've kind of gotten down into the lower end of my air supply, so it's time to head up. I'm going to go up empty-handed from the second dive here on the Octagon. But I got my flounder from earlier. Excuse me, I'm not empty-handed. I got the one sheepshead that I shot on the way down. But that's all I'm going to take up with me. So heading back up here as I get shallower, you see it's getting a little brighter. Get up in the daylight there. It fizzes a lot better. See those Atlantic bumper a little bit closer here. Big schools of those are very commonly under the pier. But that's kind of it for this dive. Appreciate you guys watching the video, and Again, hope to see you guys on the next one.